There was a moment in history when black identity was no longer whispered or restrained, when it was proclaimed in poetry, paint, score, and shutter. Harlem became a living canvas, a stage where the bold reimagined themselves, refusing caricature, and instead declaring complexity, elegance, protest, joy. And at the center of this rebirth was the camera's eye. Photographers, black image makers armed with lenses and urgency, captured a revolution of self-definition. These photographs were more than art. They were evidence, proof that a generation had chosen not to be erased but witnessed, to be seen, archived, and remembered on their own terms. The camera was a radical instrument. In the 1920s, photography was not just mechanical, it was political. Black photographers stepped behind the lens, rejecting stereotyped depictions and replacing them with intention. Scholars, dancers, ministers, rebels, dreamers, lovers, ordinary citizens, extraordinary simply in their being. Photography studios became creative sanctuaries. Shutter clicks echoed like declarations. I exist. I am art. I am history. Harlem was the Mecca, and photography the scripture. In these images, black Americans curated new mythology, self-possessed, dignified, layered. They were not objects to be looked at. They were subjects commanding presence, and the world began to look differently. James Van Der Zee didn't just take photographs, he composed futures. In his Harlem studio, backdrops were painted, lighting was sculpted, elegance orchestrated. His subjects arrived in furs, tuxedos, lace, and heirlooms, asking not for vanity, but legacy. Van Der Zee understood the assignment of immortality. Every photograph was structured dignity. The camera adored them because he did first. His photographs quietly countered every narrative, suggesting black life was anything less than grand, complex, intellectual, soft, soulful, triumphant. Each print emerging from his darkroom whispered the same truth. You deserve to be remembered like this. Harlem hosted more than great art. It birthed cultural stardom without compromising authenticity. Musicians like Billie Holiday, Louis Armstrong, and Bessie Smith were photographed not as spectacle, but human. Unscripted laughter, cigarette smoke drifting like punctuation, eyelids lowered in songs after glow. Photographers captured the breathtaking weight of presence. These weren't publicity stills. They were portals. Photography proved that black performance wasn't mimicry of greatness. It was the source of it. Jazz wasn't just heard. It was seen in posture, gaze, flair, defiance, vulnerability. The lost photographs held the echoes in stillness. Zora held the lens too. She refused to sit outside culture as a subject only. She documented it. She photographed juke joints, rituals, southern folklore, daily magic. While the Renaissance glittered uptown, Hurston preserved its roots in the mud, music, and memory of black southern life. She understood what many miss. Movements don't begin on stage. They begin in back roads, riverbanks, kitchens, and church steps. Her photographs were anthropological hymns. They kept tradition from slipping into caricature, insisting that black culture was not a sidebar to American history. It was the spine. But history is fragile. Thousands of negatives vanished, misfiled, discarded, mislabeled, sold in estate boxes, ruined by humidity, ignorance, or neglect. Some were taken without documentation. Others were simply not considered important enough at the time to archive. This is the tragedy of the lost photograph, a life captured but not preserved. A story framed but not protected. Cultural memory depends on caretakers, and black archives were too often treated as disposable, even while influencing everything around them. Each lost image is a sentence history can no longer speak. Photographs degrade silently. Chemicals fail, emulsion cracks, nitrate film combusts with time. Harlem's visual archive was endangered not only by racism, but chemistry. Even preservation requires privilege. Wealthy institutions maintained climate control. Harlem artists made do. So thousands of faces, ordinary, brilliant, electric, slipped into invisibility not for lack of importance, but resource. Yet the miracle is this: so many remain at all. The survivors are the proof of a photographic insurgency. What we have today are not remnants, they are victories. The Harlem Renaissance was motion captured in stillness. Tap shoes suspended mid-air, piano keys pressed but sound implied, robes swirling without blur. Photographers learned to trap energy without killing it. Their secret wasn't technical alone, it was communal trust. Subjects were photographed by someone who understood the assignment emotionally. These photos move without moving. They are kinetic ghosts, dance partners with time itself. Harlem didn't want to be documented. It wanted to be felt. Camera obliged. Harlem photography refused to separate genius from neighborhood. Langston Hughes on stoops mattered as much as Hughes on stage. A street preacher mid-sermon was as eternal as the poet laureate of the movement. The lens collapsed hierarchy. Cultural value was not assigned by class or fame, but significance. Barbers, actors, seamstresses, activists, lovers on the corner, thinkers in cafes. Harlem was a gallery without curators. The camera democratized legacy, preserving a civilization from within, rather than being interpreted from the outside. Photography also witnessed political awakening. Umia parades, Garveyite rallies, banners stitched with destiny, a people rehearsing sovereignty in public. These photographs countered misrepresentation with overt power. Uniforms crisp, chins high, vision continental. Nothing accidental, nothing apologetic. These are photographs with nationalism in their bones. You can feel Africa in the composition, resistance in the posture, a movement demanding not inclusion but inheritance. Today, archivists resurrect what history misplaced. Pixel by pixel, dust becomes stars again. Lost images surface at estate sales, attic boxes, mislabeled museum drawers. Scholars cross-reference expressions, clothing, wallpaper, handwriting on photo backs. Archaeology of remembrance. Harlem refused disappearance, even when mistreated by preservation. Digital restoration is not repair, it is reparations in pixels. The archive expands again because people decided forgetting was no longer an option. A new generation restages the lost photographs. Portraits are remade with reverence, not imitation. Photographers today shoot with ancestral intention, honoring composition, posture, mood, sovereignty, glamour, and truth. Harlem is not a time. It is a frequency. The Renaissance was never a historical period. It was permission. These images made black imagination visible. That is their eternal job. The lost photographs of the Harlem Renaissance were never just images. They were mirrors producing a future. Portraits not of who black people were restricted to be, but who they knew themselves to be. Every recovered face is a returned ancestor. Every restored negative, a reclaimed sentence in history's unwritten manuscript. What was once misplaced is now prophecy fulfilled. We were here. We were glittering. We were infinite. This has been Roots Renaissance. See you in the next chapter.